Well, Russia's war is triggering one of the very things it sought to prevent, the expansion of NATO. Sweden and Finland will officially submit their applications for membership Wednesday, ending decades of military non-alignment. The country's leaders held a joint news conference today saying they believe they can convince Turkey to drop its opposition to their bids. Russia's foreign minister is downplaying this historic move, noting that Finland and Sweden already participate in NATO drills. We are joined now by Nina dos Santos in Stockholm and Jomana Karadsheh in Istanbul. Good to have you both with us. I want to start with you, Nina. So Finland and Sweden are both expected to hand in their NATO application Wednesday before the nation's leaders are set to meet with the US president. Russia initially said it would retaliate, but now listening to Russia's foreign minister, he says this move makes no difference.
Yeah, that's right. Russia now taking a few steps back. And also, we heard President Putin of Russia just earlier this week say that, well, actually, when it comes to Sweden and Finland joining NATO, he has no issue with that. It would only be if there were military bases or nuclear weapons positioned in this part of the Baltic Sea, then he might have an issue, and that would provoke a Russian response. Look, at this point, Sweden has not asked, has actually put on paper as a precondition of its accession to NATO that it doesn't want any nuclear weapons in this part of the Baltic Sea on its territory, and it doesn't want any military bases here. So essentially, political analysts I've been speaking to here in Stockholm throughout the course of the day say that this stance from Russia really is just a recognition of the fact that these countries have been closely allied with NATO ever since they became partners back in 1994. Now, today was all about a choreographed series of statements, votes, signings of papers, and now we finally have both of these two countries having filled in their application forms that, as you say, are going to head to Brussels first thing tomorrow morning. I spoke to the Prime Minister of Sweden about one particular issue that might be a thorny one that could hold things up over the next year to come. And that could be Turkey's resistance as probably the only member of the 30-member alliance to Sweden and Finland joining. She said that there might be room for negotiation on that. Have a listen.
We have stated very clearly to Turkey that we are ready to talk, we are ready to go to Turkey to have bilateral discussions on the way forward. So we are ready to do our part.
So as you can see there, we have both the Swedish side and the Finnish side playing down very much this resistance from the Turkish president. But they're also going to have the most powerful member of NATO, the United States, on their side to try and expedite these discussions. After these talks, the debate in the Finnish parliament, the vote that happened earlier today, almost overwhelmingly in support of NATO membership, we saw an invitation coming from the US President Joe Biden, no less, for both the leaders of these two countries to head to Washington on Thursday to discuss that key issue of NATO accession and how the United States could probably help with that. Lynda?
All right. Our thanks to you, Nina. I want to go to Jomana for more on Turkey's response to this. As Nina mentioned, getting Finland and Sweden into NATO requires agreement from all 30 members of NATO, Turkey being one of those members. But certainly Turkey's leader is doubling down on his opposition to Finland and Sweden joining NATO. What is he hoping to gain here, Jomana?
Well, look, Lynda, despite this really tough talk, this fiery rhetoric that is not unusual for President Erdogan, that some feel is perhaps the Turkish president here trying to raise the ante before negotiations that are set to take place. We know that Sweden and Finland are going to be sending delegations here to Turkey to discuss Turkey's issues. And also, perhaps more importantly, senior Turkish officials are in the United States this week. The Turkish foreign minister is expected to meet with his U.S. counterpart also this week, and this is expected to top the agenda. And, despite what the Turkish president is saying, we have heard from his senior officials, Lynda, over the weekend saying that this is not a definite no, that they're not closing the door to Sweden and Finland joining, but they're saying, look, they have certain issues that they have brought to the table that they want addressed, and they want security guarantees. Those main issues revolve around what they say is this alleged support for terrorist organizations, mainly here referring to the Kurdish separatist militant group, the PKK, that is considered a terrorist organization by the EU and the US as well as Turkey. And then another key issue for them is the issue of an arms embargo, restrictions on Turkey's arms industry, its military industries, that was put in place back in 2019. They want these restrictions lifted by Sweden and Finland. So, I mean, all indications right now, Lynda, are, while keeping in mind that President Erdogan is a very highly unpredictable leader, all indications are that there is room for compromise here, that they could perhaps reach some sort of an agreement during these negotiations. What is very clear is that Turkey is really trying to seize this moment right now to try and advance its own national interests with this newfound leverage, Lynda.
Yeah, Turkey certainly trying to capitalize on this. Jomana Karadsheh in Istanbul and Anina dos Santos in Stockholm. Thanks very much.